We're back in the chair. We're back in a hoodie. Hey guys. I want to say thanks, first of all, for the feedback on my previous videos that are similar to this one, these little sit-and chats. They're not really called anything, but anyway. Also, topics you want me to talk about. I'm totally open to that too. So today we're going to talk about loneliness, I guess specifically more so in the spiritual community, but I really feel like this goes for everybody and all bodies. Kind of necessary to share the definitions of what these words mean. So, solitude is the state or situation of being alone. Loneliness, hold on, loading, is sadness because one has no friends or company. The quality of being unfrequented and remote. So I think it's important to just start there and know those definitions, because being alone and being lonely are two different things. So before I get into my journey and my experience with it, I want to propose that question and ask you all to comment down below. What do you feel like the difference is between being alone and being lonely in your lifetime and your experience? And again, you don't have to have crystals to answer this question. It's not specifically just to the spiritual community. I just found that as I started to grow into this space of healing and holistic health, more of a ascended way or out of the box way of thinking, there wasn't many people that I found could relate, and it had its very lonely moments. Specifically, for me, starting in my family, I will say I'm very grateful. My older brother, which a lot of you are familiar with, one of my older brothers, Taylor, kind of paved the way as being one of the weird ones in the family. Having that around me and having that so close to me, it's one of my brothers, did definitely make it easier. I will say I'm grateful for that. Despite that, as I was developing, and I remember specifically in college, as I'm becoming a young woman, I'm well, there's only so much that my older brother can understand about a woman in this space. I had a lot of things and practices and passion that I could only experience by myself. And honestly, in the beginning, it wasn't so bad because I was still learning, and I don't even think I was in a space to want to share that with somebody. I don't even know if I was as sure or as confident in my sharing abilities or my learning experience. That was one of the first moments where it was just solitude. But I can say after college, when I really was living by myself for the first time, really feeling like you have no one to call that will even understand the language that you're speaking. You know what I'm saying? Emotionally, having the emotional intelligence to understand you. That feels really, really lonely. I can say for me, as I continued to develop and I was living alone and kind of having my own personal time for my practices and not really sharing them with anyone, feeling misunderstood, feeling lonely, feeling like I couldn't really express myself the way that I know I really wanted to, because no one, again, just being misunderstood, no one really get it. And I don't even know if I was in a space to know how to express it. But when I really started to take it serious and it became a priority in my life, I guess you could say, was around 2019. I was fresh out of a relationship, working crazy hours. As you guys may or may not know, I used to work 60-hour weeks in the film industry, and my life was pretty on autopilot. It was work, some type of practice, shower, sleep. Do it all over again in the morning. My weekends I spent by myself at the park. It's just so funny because in those moments I was just wow, I so badly want to be able to share this with somebody, or for somebody to understand what I'm going through. Other than my journal, my journal felt like the only place that understood me. And still to this day, sometimes that's the only place that understands me. And that's totally okay now. But at the time, I was just God, how do I even get the confidence to express myself, let alone where are the people to express these things to? So as I was in that very, it started as just this loneliness feeling, I found myself actually starting to self-isolate. And it's so ironic and funny how we crave things, but we actually are pushing them away a lot of the time. When I reflect on that period, there was a lot of moments where I was saying no to hanging out with people because I felt like they didn't get it, or I was unfollowing a bunch of people on Instagram because I felt like they didn't get it, or I was just really becoming a big ball of judgment towards other people because I was judging myself probably. And as I was learning new information and gaining all this knowledge, man, those who know don't talk, and those who talk don't know. That's from the Tao Te Ching. But it was just, looking back, it's so relevant because like you think you're like gaining so much and you're ascending so much and you're just like, oh, my family doesn't get it and my like old friends don't get it and everybody's so toxic, stuck in the matrix and blah, 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 blah. But it really becomes a self-isolating thing and you look up, there's this quote from Andre 3000. I love Andre 3000, side note. And I don't know what his eating habits are now, but he was vegan. And then I think he stopped and then maybe started again. But the period where he stopped, there's this quote I always think about because I can't tell you how many times I've been in this scenario where he was like, I stopped being vegan because I found myself just lonely and halfway mad eating a salad by myself in my house all the time. And I was just like, yo, that is the most relatable quote I've heard in a long time. Because I can't tell you how many times like I'm rejecting things or saying no to things and then I end up in my house by myself eating a salad. And granted, I'm totally happy being vegan and doing my eating habits I'm happy with. But there was a lot of, like, in general, the essence of what he's saying is like, you block out all these people and really you're by yourself at the end of the day, like kind of mad at the world. So like I said, I fell into these really kind of self-isolating habits a little bit. I still find myself like try to do them. Even last year, I know this video is a little all over the place, by the way, but there's like so much I want to say about this topic. But even last year, when I was going through a really, really hard time, I thought about just up and moving to another state. Granted, sometimes that works for people. They can just like up and go and start fresh somewhere. But I realized that I was totally doing this self-isolation thing where I'm like, well, no one gets it. I don't even feel like trying to explain it. Whatever, I'm just gonna disappear. Because that feeling of wanting to disappear, oh my God. I get it probably like once every, I think we're at 2 weeks. It was at like once a week, but every 2 weeks I'm like, I'm just gonna disappear from everything. But really starting to ask yourself like, why is where it gets interesting? Like why? Like what is it you're running from or chasing? They're both the same thing, chasing and running. Running is chasing, you know, same exact thing. And realizing that there was just a lot of emotions that I was avoiding because, you know, when you get into a relationship or when you start a friendship with somebody or anytime you spend time with someone, you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about wounds you haven't healed or traits about yourself that you really love or traits you really don't really enjoy maybe that much. But you learn so much about yourself. And a lot of times when we're by ourselves, there's no one there to challenge us or oppose us or like test us a little bit. You get around some other people and you're like, okay, I don't like how this feels because I don't like the way that they eat, I don't like the way that they breathe, I don't like the way they're talking about this topic, whatever it is. You start to just project it all onto them like they're the problem. But really, there's a lot in you that needs healing. Not to say that you have to stick with this person or be around this person even if you don't like them, but to avoid all people out of just trying to avoid feelings and emotions is a real thing that we do as humans, and I personally have done. And you're gonna roll your eyes at me, but when I started to really get consistent in my breathwork practice and really build that confidence, you know, because it had been a little over a year that I had been really dedicating every single day, even when I was working those 60-hour days or 60-hour weeks, to the breath. I started to really accept who I was because that is what my like spiritual practices and breathwork specifically led me to. Like a lot of times we just want to like change who we are, or we think we need to add something to who we are. Maybe we even want to take away something. But really, you can't change anything until you accept it, until you fully are like, all right, Casey is doing this currently. It's not an absolute, doesn't have to be forever, but right now this is what she's doing. And fully observing that and going into that like childhood curiosity instead of the adulthood judgment changed everything for me. I think sometimes we can even get attached to the idea of self-isolation and loneliness. I called it solitude, and I'm big on my solitude. I need my space, I need to be alone, I enjoy my alone time. But it started to be, like I said, more of a self-isolating thing, and I convinced myself that that was solitude, almost becoming attached to this narrative of like, well, no one understands, so I'm better off alone anyway. I'll forever be single. It's okay, I got this. Like, I'm not meant to do those things. I'm meant to be by myself. Really believed that that was true. And honestly, it's funny, like I can't say that there was like a 1, 2, 3 steps that I took to start to build a community or attract those people around me, but I do think it started with accepting who I was in that moment. Full acceptance and presence of like, this is Casey at this age, at this place, in this space, breathing this breath. And really doing that without trying to like judge it and change it is really hard. Like try it right now. Really like accept who you are completely in this moment. and accept that it's right where you need to be. You know, there's a time and season for a lot of things. So if you are feeling like lonely right now or isolated right now, like, again, start with that acceptance instead of just like not accepting the present and thinking it's not already perfect, because it is. Wanting really does interrupt being. Do your best to literally observe yourself. I was in that space for almost a year. This is when I started first solo traveling. I went to Denver all by myself. Took a lot of trips alone. And again, it led me to the van, which then led me to like just spending a lot of time alone in the van. But it led me to a yoga studio that was like the first taste of my community. And then it led to me hosting breathwork sessions called Hustle and Harmony. It was a monthly thing I used to do here in Atlanta. That ultimately led to Connected Camping, which we're on our 3rd season, and we've grown an insane community that goes so hard. More information about that down below. But you know, to think that I'm even a part of this, let alone hosting the community, is like mind-blowing sometimes, because I'm a very like introverted person, as much as I may seem very extra. I mean, I have my moments of extroverted, let me not front. But I am a very like one-on-one kind of person. I don't like big crowds usually. I would rather just keep to myself because it's easier. But again, like sometimes we need that contrast to push us to grow, to be able to express what we don't like and what we do like, to feel feelings that we never even felt before. Like that is necessary, as scary as it can be sometimes, I know. So for me, to wrap it up, this was a little chatty of a video, sorry. I think loneliness turned into beautiful solitude and healthy alone time when I started to accept it. When I started to accept loneliness, and when I stopped chasing and running. You know, you're gonna have days and you're gonna have moments. Again, accept it. It is part of it. Like, I can be honest, like even the other day, I was just like, man, it would be nice to share this quality moment with somebody. Especially for me with traveling sometimes. You know, you create all these memories, but then you're by yourself, so you can't even like look back and share them with somebody. You're like, okay, so you remember that time you did that thing, you know? And sometimes that is awesome. That's like all you want. But other moments you do want to share it with somebody. So that's to say that like, I don't know that there's a cure forever for it. But I think when you realize how necessary it is sometimes and fully accept it, ask yourself the whys and the maybe hows of the space that you're in. You know, are you pushing people away? Or how can you make this time and space, like how can you accept it more? How can you shift your perspective on it maybe to enjoying it? I know it sounds wild, but sometimes like the acceptance I have with emotions now at 28 years old compared to like 5 years ago, I literally enjoy being angry sometimes. I know that sounds like insane, but I promise I'm not insane. Or enjoy being sad, because it's like, wow, my ability to feel right now, some people are numb. They don't even express or feel anything, and I'm fully able to do that. And that in itself is a whole gift. Maybe just that simple perspective of like, wow, I am grateful to know this contrast. I mean, I can't say I have the absolute answer, but as I continue to just focus on myself and turn that solitude or self-isolation, loneliness into more of a committed, focused practice for myself, and not just like pushing people out to be alone and be sad about it and be attached to my loneliness. Like, I can't tell you how many times I texted my mom, like, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna be alone forever, Mom. Like, I'm not supposed to be with anybody. Crazy. Once I started to do that, it really started to attract a lot of like-minded people and put me in this space where community is like abundant. I just never was that person that, like, usually I'm hanging out with like 1 to 2 friends. I'm not usually hanging out with like a big group of friends. I don't have like birthday parties to go to. I don't have like things to do with large groups of friends. Like, that wasn't typically my life. Even now sometimes when I look up, I'm like, I get to experience that? Shit is lit. I never even, to be honest, knew the value of it or wanted it. So I think once you stop wanting and you start being, you start attracting. That's that on that. All right, y'all. She's in a chatty mood. We're gonna stop here. If you have any questions or stories you'd like to share on this, or maybe you're going through a lonely period in the spiritual journey, I would love to know what that feels like or what that looks like. Anything on your mind. Allow it to be like a brain dump in the comments. It is an open, safe space, I promise. Those haters or rude people will be deleted and blocked. So this is a safe space on this channel. That is it. That is all. And I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.